What's going on, everyone? My name is Jake. This is where I talk capes, and today we are, of course, talking about the Fantastic Four trailer. Now, if you are subscribed to Jake Talks Tunes, you will probably know by looking at me and seeing the hat and hearing how I sound. I'm recording this the day that the trailer came out, which is Tuesday. I'm not well. I'm pretty under the weather, if you can't tell by looking and or listening to me. I recorded that video earlier. I recorded a video for Tunes whilst I was waiting for the trailer to drop, because the tease does. With the coverage begins and then an hour long wait before we actually saw the trailer, and then again it wasn't even just the trailer, there was like an event with the cast, and it was all really cool. I did enjoy everything, kind of all the signs that were shown, and then we finally got the trailer, the first look at the Fantastic Four First Steps, which is coming out in July. Now, before I just go and speak nothing but positivity about this trailer, there's a couple of things that I did want to say. I think having the hour long countdown and wait and holding a full event for a teaser for what I believe the full video is a minute 37, and then that also probably includes at the end where it's like coming in July or whatever. So around about a 90-second trailer, there was a whole event hosted and the cast flew out, and there was a whole big spectacle made of releasing a trailer that's a minute and a half long. I do think that's a little bit unnecessary. However, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the future of Marvel Studios rests quite heavily on the shoulders of this movie doing good and performing well and being good. But as I'm sure you can imagine, I have already watched this trailer a handful of times now. I've watched it. I've not sat and combed through every frame. That's not really what I do here. I don't really have any interest in sitting and finding Easter egg after Easter egg after Easter egg. However, there is a lot to love here, and so much is packed into a relatively short trailer. It is, like I say, a teaser, but so much is packed into this from the beginning. First of all, the first thing that really hits me, and the first thing I keep coming back to, is the costumes. The costumes look incredible with the white detailing, and how all of their costumes are slightly different from each other. All their uniforms are slightly different to each other. For example, Reed's has no sort of white detail up here. Sue's is just the sort of the neckline, and Johnny and Ben's have the kind of the white detail over the sleeves. I think it looks really good, and as well, it's a way to sort of differentiate them all instead of just giving them the same costume, the same uniform, and letting them all go out as that. And obviously I understand that we know who is who. It's very easy to differentiate between the Thing and Johnny and Sue and Reed, but I do think giving sort of slight differences within the uniforms is brilliant, and it separates each character into this is their version of the Fantastic Four uniform, which I really like. Another thing I love, Galactus, and he has his helmet. He's not the fart cloud. I will never, ever forgive Fart Cloud Galactus. One thing I did notice though from my viewings of this trailer is that we get to see everyone sort of use their powers or do what they do. Obviously we see Ben Grimm as the Thing. We see Ben Grimm after his transformation. We see Sue going invisible and sort of using the force field and things. And one thing I love as well is that it's not just a sort of blue energy beam that it kind of has been. It's the refraction of light that we're seeing in the lens flares and things like that, or the way it's kind of reacting to the lens. They're adding in to make it look like she's refracting the light, which I really, really like, instead of just going general kind of see-through blue effect on it, which I think shows a lot of love and care and attention to detail to the character. There's a shot where Johnny flames on it and goes flying, and there's lens flares been added in as he flies past the camera, which I think is fantastic. However, in the trailer we don't see Reed use his powers, and I never thought much of it, but there was posters released later on where we do see sort of Reed stretching through, Reed's thumb stretched out. I'll put it on the screen, or I guess I'll put it on the screen because it will be there. So obviously, even though we don't get to see him do it in the trailer, they were never gonna fuck around and not have him do it. A few more things I absolutely love here. It seems from this 90-second trailer that the family dynamic has been absolutely nailed. The trailer opens with Reed saying, we have family dinner once a week, every Sunday without fail. We all come here, we all sit down. And you really feel that throughout. Like I say, it's only a 90-second trailer, but you feel the love and the fondness and how much all these characters care for each other. And by all accounts, that was reciprocated off screen as well. Vanessa Kirby has said she's not had a cast that she's felt so affectionately for before, and all of them kind of echoed that sentiment. I know Pedro Pascal said that leaving set and leaving the filming was really hard for him because he'd grown so attached to the other three that not being able to see them every day was like a big moment for him. And one thing Vanessa Kirby said on the live stream this morning, or I guess this afternoon, was that you can't manufacture chemistry, and that's completely true. You absolutely cannot manufacture chemistry. You can't get them to go on screen, you can't get them to go on camera and just say, okay, now you are a family and we feel that dynamic. It has to be natural, it has to come naturally. And you can kind of tell by every time you see them in interviews or interacting with each other that is true off screen, and it really does shine through in this trailer a lot. We also get glimpses of the Fantastic Car. We get glimpses of, you know, kids wearing Ben Grimm masks, which I think is great. I think, obviously, fair enough to do a little bit of this movie being like, you know, Ben is obviously sad about being, you know, being mutated into a big rock man. However, I love Ben Grimm in the comics when he's accepted that and he is sort of loving of life and is, you know, always joyous and happy. And I think instead of sort of harping on it and having him be, oh, I'm sad because I'm a rock man and wah, and then having him kind of learn to accept himself for who he is now and love his life as the Thing, instead of kind of doing that over time, I think it's a really good decision to just have him in this movie, run through that arc in this movie, because yeah, it would suck if you went to space as a human and came back as a rock man and now everyone's looking at you because you're a big weird rock man. However, the character of Ben Grimm is so universally loved and he's just a big fucking teddy bear, and I think having him have that story in this film and then him be over it and be happy in his new life and his new skin by the end of it, I think that's a wonderful decision. I'm assuming that's where it's going, but I think if that is the case, if that is what they're going for, then I'm all for it. There's also someone pointed out at the start when we see Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards sort of doing equations on this big chalkboard, it looks as though he has drawn, I believe it's what they call the Mobius strip, is what the thing that kind of unlocks time travel and multiversal travel in Endgame that Tony Stark invents. So it looks as though, you know, we're setting the seeds for the way to cross them over into the mainline MCU, which I'm very, very happy about, because one of my worries for this film is that, and it wasn't a huge worry, because I know they announced ahead of time that this is going to be taking place in a sort of parallel Earth and a parallel dimension before it then becomes folded into what we know. But the idea that they're going to take the Fantastic Four and try and force them into the mold of what we already have, instead of doing a Fantastic Four story and then working that around that, like it's kind of hard to explain with words, but it's more, I'm excited that they are focusing on this film as, how do I say it? It feels like they're really using this film to just tell a story of its own and then work out how this goes and how the MCU reacts and adapts to this, instead of going, well, we need to finish here, how do we get the Fantastic Four to here? They're just going to let the Fantastic Four naturally follow their own path, and then we work out how this goes in, instead of having a predetermined endpoint and getting into there, which I think is fantastic. It's lended just such a huge creative freedom to the creative team. I spoke about it on one of my last videos, talking about looking forward to the year of Marvel in 2025. And you know, the writing team is fantastic. Obviously, the director is Matt Shakman, who did WandaVision, also did he's done a lot of Sunny, did Charlie work in Sunny, my favourite episode of TV ever. So I'm very excited with the creative team that they've got here, and the fact that it's very evident that they have been given the range to create this story sort of free of the shackles of the MCU, and then they're going to fold this in after. They're going to work around this instead of working this in, which I think is incredibly important, especially when you're introducing something as pivotal to the universe as the Fantastic Four. However, for me, the thing that does it for me the most is the retro-futuristic sort of setting and tone and feel. Just the vibes of this are incredible. It feels so fresh and unique, and it feels so, I don't know what's the word, it feels so inventive, and it feels like something so new, and it doesn't feel like the sort of MCU style. For me, if you're making a superhero movie and the genre of that is superhero, it kind of fails to land. And I think you can see that with a lot of the biggest successes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You look at, with the Winter Soldier being like a sort of Cold War espionage movie inspired thriller. That movie works for that reason. That movie doesn't work because, you know, it's the superhero movie. And I guess, you know, making movies with the genre superhero flat out, that works for like an Avengers and things like that. But when you're going sort of movie to movie and the building blocks of the universe, you need things that feel different, and this immediately feels different. Like I say, with the Winter Soldier being like a sort of Cold War spy thriller, with Guardians of the Galaxy being like a big space adventure. You know, you've got Ant-Man, the Ant-Man 1, or just Ant-Man, I guess, is a heist movie. You've got the first two Spider-Man movies are like sort of teen John Hughes inspired movies. And I think all those movies work for those reasons. And I think one of the reasons that the later Ant-Man movies don't necessarily work as well is because they just then go, well, Ant-Man's a superhero movie, and they don't sort of work around what makes the character of Ant-Man, and in particular Scott Lang, so special. And I think as well, with this being so fresh and feeling so unique, and it doesn't feel like, you know, a typical MCU project that we've kind of become used to, it opens the door for these projects to go down these other routes in the future. And I think, like I say, I think if you're using the genre as superhero, it is very easy to make it bland and forgettable. But if you're using the superhero sort of mythos to build off a genre and create a movie in that genre, you create something so new and so appealing. And I think when you look at the trailers for, you know, the new Captain America and for the Thunderbolts, they feel very, very similar. They kind of have that sort of washed out Greys, MCU, whatever sort of stuff. But I think that works for both of those movies there. You know, your sort of covert ops, sort of black ops, government political thriller sort of stuff. It looks like that's what they're kind of trying to go for on the baseline anyway. So I'm not too mad about those kind of having a sort of similar and consistent tone with each other. However, when you look at this, there is absolutely no reason that we shouldn't be taking, if you'll pardon the pun, there is no reason we shouldn't be taking as big a swing as we've taken here for the Spider-Man College trilogy. And I think most importantly for that is it'll be tricky because MCU 616's New York is established. You know, we've had Avengers movies set there, we've already had 3 Spider-Man set in there. And as much as I like those movies, they feel like they're trying to fit in with the consistent MCU tone. Obviously the first two do lean into the sort of teen comedy, teen dramedy, I guess, quite heavily, especially the first one. And the second one as well, actually. But they kind of do then, especially towards the end, they're like, we're a Marvel movie, we need to get this done. Let's go for that. But I think if we are showing a different side to what these movies can be, there is no reason that for a hero like Spider-Man, or if we do the Ghost Rider, or if we ever get Blade, or any of these characters, you know, Spider-Man should be sort of vibrant and colourful and full of life, and Blade and Ghost Rider should be dark and horror inspired and unsettling in times. And seeing this here has given me the most hope for what the MCU can do going forward. I could harp on for hours and hours and hours about the sort of the tone of this trailer and the setting and like I say, that retro-futuristic feel, which is, to me, one of the biggest selling points of this movie. Instead of trying to work them into the pre-existing MCU lore, we do a movie that's completely separate from everything, and then we fold them in. I just think if this movie is a success that it's set to be, we need to then go back to what it was pre-Endgame, where you're giving the directors a lot more freedom to make their movie. You know, look at Ragnarok. Ragnarok, you know, kind of has the whole washed out colours and big third act battle with a big monster, but it's a Taika Waititi kind of comedy first. And yeah, he went too far, leaned too heavily into that for Love and Thunder for a lot of people, kind of myself included. I liked it at the time, but as time's gone on, I've softened on it. I still don't think it's that bad, but like, it's not great. But I just think allowing creative teams the time and the freedom to build these characters up and do all this is fantastic. Pardon the pun again. But no, I'm very excited for this movie. July 25th cannot come soon enough. And I think, you know, July we'll be getting Superman, and then 2 weeks later we'll be getting Fantastic Four. I'm very excited to see, because both of them kind of, you know, the future of both studios and both cinematic universes lie very heavily on both of those movies. And obviously with Superman, it's because it's the first one, fair enough. But with Fantastic Four, this needs to show people that there is still life in the MCU, as long as the MCU are willing to branch out and try different things and trust creators more, which hopefully that this will lead to that. So that is all my thoughts as I trickle over into 18 minutes of recording about a 90-second trailer. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Share this around to all your friends. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the Fantastic Four trailer. Are you excited for the movie? Are you not so excited for the movie? Were you excited and the trailer has made you not less excited, or the other way? I'd like to know your thoughts about this trailer and this movie going forward. And also, don't forget to share this with your friends. Say to them, look at this handsome man with good comic movie opinions on the internet. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.